Bravo, bravo, bravissima. Congratulations.
Grazie.
What a beautiful journey you brought us onto. And I wanted to maybe start by maybe both of you telling us, or the three of you can actually probably, tell us a little bit about your collaboration, because this is a project long in the making. You were born into the radical filmmaking, radical creativity project of your family's lifestyle. But then you've been making this film for quite a long time, and you also started, you told me, Lilla, that you were shooting a long time ago too, maybe for ideas for a film. So tell us a little bit about how the project actually started to materialize, and how did you three shape it so it can become this beautiful journey we saw today?
You want me to start? So, yeah. So in my 20s, I had the thought of making a documentary on my father. And when I started, my background had been as a camera operator and director in reality TV. And I just started. As you saw, I grew up in that environment, and it took for me to move away from home and come back to sort of really want to explore this idea, but I didn't have a clear sort of goal or image. I just knew that I needed to start collecting footage. And so I asked my dad, and I started recording it, not knowing at all where or how this footage was going to be used. And I finished recording it, and then it got tucked away and sort of forgotten until my sister, incredible sister, who I'm so proud of, picked it up again. And then thankfully I had some footage to donate to the cause. So, and that's what came out of it.
Thank you. Awesome answer. Elena, do you want to chip in on how the layers that took us a long time to build?
So actually we were trying to remember how we met, and we couldn't remember. We're trying to go back and see the messages like when it started, and we couldn't. So we don't know exactly, but I came on board, maybe it was like after 7 years that you were already working on it. It was like during COVID times. Yeah, we really didn't know each other before starting to work. Maybe you posted something and I replied, and then I was like so interested in the project that we kept in touch, and I kept like once in a while I was like, Elettra, so should we start editing? What do you think? Are you ready? It was like, I think at the beginning, of course, it was like hard for her to trust me because we didn't know each other, and it was like such a personal project. But so we had like really long conversations, also like very personal conversation, and I think we like you started trusting me also because we have so similar backgrounds. My mom is also American, my father is Italian. They met in Florence, so I grew up like really close to Florence, actually in San Casciano, where the archive is, which is pretty amazing. So we had like so many similarities and coincidences. And then, yeah, I worked on it from, I think maybe 4 or 5 months, so not even that long. Yeah. Oh, sorry, could you hear me?
Yeah, and in terms of like the layers, I mean, it was the most evident part was just to build the history, and even that wasn't simple, but it was the basic sort of through line, and then from that we started sort of digging deeper into the different aspects of like the environment, so their values and their ideals, and what that movement meant. And then the family layers, and then the more intimate. So actually the footage that my sister shot was the last layer that was added like 6 months ago, because it was also the hardest emotionally, and finally I was able to sort of figure out how that fit into everything.
Sorry. You can pass the mic also. So one of my favorite things about the film is that it's not only the film about the history, as you say, you know, and this group of incredible visionaries of architecture and design, but because it's a very personal, beautiful journey about discovery. Like not only the discovery of like, you know, your roots and your kind of like where you come from and why you are the way you are, but also like a self-discovery in a way. And I love that you brought us into the vulnerable space also of grief. And the film is also very much its own kind of like grief process. And you open the film with like releasing the ashes, you know, in the beautiful ceremony, and you close with this kind of like very, for me, very emotional moment where you are in this empty cinema, just seeing the images of your dad on screen. So can you tell us a little bit about how the act of cinema and filmmaking has helped you not only continue to have a relationship with your father and his work, but also to process, you know, things about identity and creativity and.
Loaded question. How much time do you have? I mean, it started as, you know, I started making this film when I was working with Lilla Fiumi, which is, she's there. She also filmed, actually, the ashes scene. So I think she knows better than anybody how I basically couldn't work anymore, which is very unlike me because I'm not a workaholic, but I'm just like, my art is my life. And so like I had to start making this film. That was the only way to go on. And that was sort of the starting point. But then I realized how amazing what I had in my hands was. And then it just took on a life of its own and just became so thrilling. And I understood the importance of the group's works, and it was tragic to me that I couldn't find much information about them online. Like in nowadays, for us to Google image something and 5 like sort of so quality images appear, and then there's not much accessible information, like it's only extraordinarily academic. That really motivated me to create a legacy that could be for my nieces and nephews, but that's like they're symbols of the future generations and how we need to sort of take care of our planet.
The images of the collages they made are so powerful that I remember not knowing that much about, you know, your father, but knowing the images, like even, and I couldn't figure out from where. But when I saw your film, I was like, I've seen these images because they stick in, like they're so powerful, iconic, and you can't forget them. And you know, there's years of collage after that, but they still remain as extremely, you know, powerful. So, I mean, I have many questions, but perhaps you do too, because it's the world premiere. So I don't see very well, but if there is any hands, or just go for it and ask a question. Yes, like right here in the front.
It was a pleasure to watch the film. Thank you so much. It was just a journey. Such an emotional journey. Was it ever difficult for you? Like, were there periods of time when it was just too difficult emotionally for you to do the work of filmmaking?
Yeah, I would just start working on a different project and then go back to it. Even more motivated and clear-headed than before. I mean, I think anybody who makes art, it's such an evolution. So, you know, what I filmed 9 years ago is like, I probably would film it differently now. So part of the filmmaking challenge was also, you know, how do you make something work today with what you did a long time ago, and that kept me also on my toes, filmmaking wise.
Is there a question right behind you? Yes, go. It's a question about the soundtrack and the score.
Yeah, as you saw, I'm so sorry, the credits are so long, but it really was such a huge team that helped me bring it to this stage. And it started, like, the music part and the sound, even the 5.1 sound mix, like, we put so much care and thought into every single song. The ones that are accompany the animations are written, inspired by some poetry that I wrote. And then it sort of became this whole like these tracks written and sung by Marta Del Grandi of Fossick Project. And they work often as a duo. So the Cecilia Valagussa does the animations and Marta Del Grandi does the music, and they work together and also separately. And so it was an interesting journey of those animations show my internal world as I sort of enter the collages, and so that music was really powerful. But also Mark DiFiorio, who is also Lilla's husband, is a sound designer and jazz drummer, and so he created the Revival sound design. And we used my nieces and nephews' interviews and music to create all of that. And so I had all this material, and then about 6 months ago, there was an original music composer who is also Florentine American, and I've courted her because she's a big time, like she does HBO and all these. So I've been courting her for a long time, and then finally I was like, okay, I'm ready, and this is what we have so far. And then she sort of collaborated with other musicians that sort of to recreate the same teamwork that we did for the Revival, and that is true to the 999 spirit.
Yes, question there?
So the question is, it reminds you of Burning Man? Yeah, I mean, I would love to interview the Burning Man founders, and ask them that. But what is interesting is that I actually found out that my father died when I was entering at the gates of Burning Man. And then I could not, and I have witnesses, my family, to back this up, but it was really hard for me to leave Burning Man because I didn't have my own car, and I was really sort of in this state of grief. And so I just, at a certain point, was like, what, I think my dad would really appreciate the environment here of art and craziness, and so I'm just gonna embrace it. And that was my initial passage through grief. So it's kind of funny that and we considered incorporating Burning Man into this, but it felt a little bit, this was even wilder than Burning Man.
Yes, right there.
Yeah, so the animation, again, it's a collaboration of, I think it's like 3 or 4 animators. But the Fossick Project was the ones that follow my internal world. And I started working with them for the Revival. And that's when I saw that they could figure me out, which is not simple. And then that's when we started working together. And then I had some other, the collages are animated beautifully, like the whole Apollo project, which is another one of my very favorite projects because it's a turning point in the 999 works from paper to transparent. And the idea behind that is that we've damaged the planet, and so we should all go to the space and bring what's dearest to us from the planet. So that's like flowers and our family and air, again, sort of similar to the MoMA project. So I really wanted to animate that fully, even though I don't state exactly all of this in words in the film, but I wanted the journey through that project to give that sense. And so I worked with an animator in Switzerland who did a lot of those. And then my other editor, Etienne Del Biagio, also did some of the animations.
It's really great that you've built the film as an art project and also incorporating all your loved ones and friends and new fascinating people, like in the very spirit of, the groups that your dad created. Because one of my favorite things is not only that they were all incredible visionaries, is that they were best friends, and they really treasure that friendship and the connection, and the being close to home and bringing things to home as much as a burden that might have been at some point, but also a great, because a lot of there's been many films made about architects, and my dad the architect, and oftentimes the problem is I never saw him because he was never home. So this beautiful possibility also of like bringing the work home and incorporating your family to the work, which is also what you're doing with your film. And I love that last part that you incorporated, not only of like reviving some of the projects, but bringing your own like younger generation of family into the fold as collaborators.
Do you want to say something about that? I don't know what that experience was like.
Go.
No. It's your family, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's incredible. I think it's absolutely incredible. You know, growing up there, like everything seemed normal. Like I was talking about on the couch when I was talking with my brother Morgan about how crazy our house was and how, you know, this environment that was so bohemian and everything, and it just kind of seemed normal, but it was so creative and so vital and so like curious, and I mean curious about, you know, what was going on in the world and stuff, and to be able to then now through your work express it in such a way, and bringing in my kids and Morgan's kids into the process. They may or may not remember it, but at least they have documentation that they were a part of this incredible film, and hopefully that will, I don't know, leave a seed in them to carry on this this sort of way of interacting with the environment and with technology and with the, again, curiosity and legacy and family and how history forms us, and you know how we can create something through our experiences. So I think it's phenomenal, and it's so interwoven. Yeah. It's so interwoven, right? Private life, family life, the work of the radicals, but which could also be then seen as any art work, really. Yeah. If you keep it interwoven, then it will have more of an impact on the future generations. So,
absolutely. Yeah. We have time for one last question. Yes, sir.
Was it your mom, Terry, or who do you speculate that was shooting the earliest footage of your dad and your friends? And was it shot on Super 8?
Yeah.
No, go.
I can give you the mic. And
I've said enough. I've said enough.
You both.
No, it was just their friend Mario Preti. I assume this is what you're speaking about in the States, the footage in the States. Yeah. So.
You know, the early days of space electronics.
Okay. Well, that was that. Yeah. It's Mario Preti, who had a Super 8 camera. And he has all this footage of that. Yeah, and Babo's footage too. Super 8 also. Yes.
That's the box that you found, like a box of Super 8s with the wedding film.
Yeah.
That is so incredible.
I mean, I just kept on finding the boxes over many years. But yeah, it was the original. In the first box, I saw the Super 8 footage, and that's when I knew that there was like enough, because just collages wouldn't, I think, have really convinced me that it could be a film. You know, the stories can come in different mediums. Yep.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of archives. Yeah. I mean, there's whole worlds, beautiful whole worlds that we should all spend more time with. Yeah. There's so much that I've learned from making this film, and I think, you know, I've always been, as like Lea knows and some other people who know my work, I'm really passionate about people and what drives people, and I'm fond of doing intimate portraits, and this has been a very challenging intimate portrait, also because some of the main characters weren't there or died during, but it really convinced me that I am passionate about this. Like, I never got bored during this whole process, and I think humans are just so multifaceted, complex. There's so many things that impact our decisions and our paths that we take, and so yeah, I think this film has definitely reasserted that passion.
Add something? I just wanted to add something about whether Elettra has become an expert at picking and choosing information and stuff, and I would say yes. I mean, there was a ton of archival material, and to be able to pick the right image or section of the Super 8 footage or whatever to, as you say, weave this tapestry together, I think was a remarkable feat. And yes, I think it honed her intuition to be able to do that. You know, my hat's off to her. So yes, I would say yes.
And
Thank you. Also, I have to say, like, Elena, she's very shy and not talking much. But like the moment that I trusted Elena and gave for the first time the hard drive, the 16 terabyte hard drive to her, and I was like, really, it was so scary. But she helped and was so fundamental in building. I mean, this kind of film, I wrote treatments millions of times, but you can never really convey the final product until you're in the edit room with an incredible editor like Elena. And it's the material. I mean, I tried to be as organized as possible, but it's also harder to keep everything in a logical order over time as the story also evolves. And so I think, yeah, having a good editor help you sort of weave it all together is also fundamental.
unfortunately, we have to wrap up because we have another screening, but I'm sure they can answer some of your questions outside in the lobby. Thank you so much for bringing this
Thank you,
wonderful
Ruth.
film.
I also wanted to just, before everybody leaves, there are also some other people who worked on the film. First of all, there's my mother. And my brother, who are both in the film. Lea, thank you for believing in it from the start. Jessica Wolfson. Jessica. Okay, she is my US producer and making it all happen here in the US as we then start also showing it around the world. Thank you for being part of the world premiere. It was amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doc NYC.